Peter, what you lost still lives within you. It's not over yet. Don't be afraid. You are not alone. Distrust still lingered in his heart, but he needed something realistic to rely on. Following this woman's path would mean turning his back on the world he'd once enjoyed, but belief alone wouldn't suffice. Peter spoke a little nervously. I've heard a lot. They say she gathers people with her voice, but you also know that the voice alone can't stop a bullet. Otangs was silent for a moment, then took a step forward. His toes creaked against the floor. Peter flinched and took a step back. He instinctively reached for the rifle in his bag. Then, what do you want? Are you simply trying to intimidate or… Peter's voice trembled. Simply? She scoffed. Peter, this path you're on now, if you don't choose it, you'll just fall. I only want one thing for you to survive, and for you to embrace it. Peter shook his head and cried out, but what we believe in. Faith? Do you know how many people have died because of that belief? She raised her hand and pointed at Peter. You must face the reality you need to survive, not the beliefs you risk your life for. If you don't choose, you won't even be able to protect the reality you risk your life for. Peter stared at her for a moment and then muttered softly, very well. The gun I raise is for your voice, not your name. Many people in the market are waiting for you. Otangs closed his eyes, then slowly opened them, placing a hand on his shoulder. Peter, even if Madame doesn't say so, you NGO members must unite. A popular uprising could save us or destroy us. But we must stop further exploitation. A moment of silence passed. Peter felt his heart pounding. The woman before him was cold, but her words contained a path and an opportunity for survival. If you want to survive, you must join me. The choice is yours. Peter closed his eyes, then opened them again, slowly nodding. At that moment, the tension between them visibly eased, and she smiled. That's why I came to you. The voice creates resonance, and the gun must keep that resonance from fading. We need each other. But remember, if either the gun or the voice wavers, we're both in danger. Peter looked up from the heavy silence. We've been dragged along for too long. Europe, America, they all treated this land as their own. Even China and Asia. But what can we do now? Reality is ruled by guns and money. Peter, that's their language. Saying that only guns and money are power is a lie. They've planted to enslave us. Her face was radiant with determination, not pain. She spoke like a priest of deep faith, but with conviction instead of a gun. Liberation isn't sold in the marketplace, nor is it secured with bullets alone. Liberation is achieved through will and solidarity. Without faith, we've already lost. Peter averted his eyes. Distrust still lingered within him. Hope, faith, love, aren't those enough songs sung in church? What power does song have in this square? She shook her head firmly. That song awakens the heart. When the heart awakens, fear disappears. And when fear disappears, the guns of empire lose their power. Peter, God is not only in heaven, but also with the hungry, the oppressed, and the torn on this earth. Without that faith, this land will never be free from bondage. Peter's breathing became ragged. He felt the truth he had long tried to deny pounding in his chest. He was just a believer who went to church every weekend. He would attend Mass unconsciously, as if it were a daily habit. But he witnessed her passion and sacrifice. What he had denied wasn't his faith, but his own fear. Otangs, I chose neutrality not out of faith, but out of fear. I believed I could survive by not taking sides. Otang stared at Peter for a moment, speechless. His son-in-law was quiet, but a heavy resolve flowed between them. Peter took a deep breath, squared his shoulders as if steeling his resolve. Now, instead of fear, he was ready to choose action. I always said neutrality was necessary. But the truth was, I was afraid. I believed I could survive by not taking sides. But neutrality ultimately means siding with the perpetrator. He paused to catch his breath and looked at her. In that moment of silent exchange of glances, Peter felt he could no longer avoid it. Otangs narrowed his eyes and nodded. Liberation is not a matter of the courage of a few. The fear of one can destroy countless comrades. But it can also lift countless hearts. The sound of military boots from across the square grew closer. Tension gripped him, but Peter no longer hid. He spoke quietly, but with a trembling voice. He spoke in a hollow voice. I will join you. No longer a bystander. A smile spread across her eyes for the first time. Then now we will fight together. I can no longer deny the blood within me. The popular uprising could save us or destroy us. Then this night we stand before will be that boundary, and tomorrow will prove us. She reached out and embraced him with warm camaraderie. Okay, let's go together. Peter's heart raced with joy and passion as the congestion eased. At that moment, moonlight shone down on the square. The two shadows crossed, and the deep night at Yaoundé's capital intersection flowed heavily, swallowing their silence. People's trial. Early in the morning, with billowing clouds, thickly gathering, Otangs offered mass to Maria in the cathedral. A sporadic rain fell in the early morning, and she emerged through the rain. She rested her hand on the wet table of the Capitol Cafe and chatted with the young women she knew. The prostitutes paused, catching their breath at the sight of her. Otangs, who had once been like best friends to her. She remembered all those days of conflict, the confusion and danger they had faced. But now she stood before her, her mature form. Deep within Maria's heart, she was engraved as a sacred presence. Have you heard anything today? Although there was little conversation, the women whispered one by one. I'll gather my friends for the Mokolro lecture this afternoon. Atangsi nodded and looked around. Shaking his wet hair, he listened to the women's conversation. A bundle of leaflets was handed out, and Maria looked at her, feeling a mixture of fear and a hint of shame. Same afternoon at the Mokolro wholesale market. A joint lecture aimed at blocking foreign businesses was in full swing. At that moment, a merchant turned on an amp and speakers, livening up the atmosphere. A Magosa dance broke out among the crowd, bodies twisting and making strange, twisting gestures. Voices murmured indistinctly, eyes flickered here and there, and a masked clown appeared. His lips moved in a comical expression, as if he were playing a prank unrelated to the speech. We must protect our market. Alphonse stepped onto the stage and shouted powerfully. The crowd murmured, and his voice echoed through the dusty air. Otangs and Peter watched him from behind. The clown's gestures and expressions were exaggerated, momentarily disrupting the atmosphere and drawing attention from those around him. Nevertheless, Alphonse continued his speech unfazed. His clenched fists and forceful words on the stage contrasted with the clown's comical presence, creating a strange irony. We cannot allow foreign merchants to take our livelihoods away from us. Let's join forces. The merchants around him raised their hands in agreement. It will be different now, won't it? Alphonse waved the Quran and proclaimed that true judgment belongs to God. Brotherhood, absolute obedience for the sake of the community. The leather cover and gold-trimmed border of his black suit fluttered in his hands. All the principles seemed to pour out in words. There were repeated applause and cheers from the many supporters who took the front row. Wearing white hats and long-sleeved galabia, Alphonse's voice rang out sharply from the podium. We cannot allow the Chinese merchants to take our community away from us. He saw the enthusiastic response of the merchants, waving their hands in the crowd. But Peter's eyes were drawn to the Chinese merchants, standing far from the podium. Their expressions were tinged with anxiety and wariness. Alphonse stepped forward and raised his voice. Let's unite from today. Whispers were heard from the crowd. A bucket for fundraising was passed around, and the audience responded with applause. The determined gaze on the podium turned to the foreigner's shop. Hey, we have to get those people out! The murmur of the crowd echoed. Peter clenched his fists, and for a moment, the air around him felt a tense, frozen tension. Alphonse smiled from the podium, but his eyes gleamed sharply. He was already manipulating the anxiety in the crowd. The wind-blown, fluttering rain, the commotion of the people, even Peter's heartbeat all tangled together. Any moment of conflict was possible. At that moment, the foreign merchants closed their shop shutters and fled. The crowd didn't miss their movement. Someone else raised a hand and shouted, "We have to get them out. We have to get them out." Peter looked up at Alphonse. From the podium, he slowly built up the people's anger, yet remained calm, as if waiting for an explosion. Peter's heart raced. No one could be sure what would happen in this market today. In that moment, he realized he had become a bystander and a witness. The embers of conflict, poised to erupt within the crowd, were smoldering before his eyes. However, after a long sermon, Alphonse expertly soothed the crowd's anger and stepped down from the podium. Late afternoon had arrived, and the shops had finally closed, leaving the market entrance swarming with a searing throng. From a corner, a few resistance fighters emerged.